grandparents' root cellar held 800 pounds of food and cost $15 to dig. The United States Department of Agriculture quietly stopped publishing home root cellar bulletins in the late 1960s once the frozen food industry took off. Not banned, just retired the pamphlet. Today, a chest freezer costs $600, runs $70 of electricity a year, and one power outage in July ruins everything in it. A hole in the ground never lost power once. Dig it, line it, fill it, forget it. Eat all winter. Number 10, the herbal medicine cabinet and the willow bark cure. 7 jars of dried leaves on the shelf. Yarrow for a fever, willow bark for a headache, plantain for a sting, chamomile for a nervous child. Your great-grandmother's medicine cabinet cost her one afternoon in July with a basket. Bayer patented aspirin in 1899. Aspirin is a synthesized copy of salicin, which is the active compound in willow bark. The National Institutes of Health published in 2015 that willow bark delivers salicin at doses clinically equivalent to a standard aspirin tablet, with a gentler stomach profile. Nobody outlawed the willow tree. They just spent 120 years selling you the pill made from it and letting you forget where the pill came from. The old man used to say every drug in the store started life in a ditch somewhere. Yarrow, willow, plantain, chamomile. Free. Growing outside right now. Number 9, home hog butchering. The one they made a public health hazard. November on the farm, cold snap, whole family in the yard. Great-grandfather stunned the hog, bled it, scalded and scraped it, split it, hung the halves in the smokehouse. 300 pounds of pork, ham, bacon, sausage, lard, cracklings, and head cheese for the price of feeding one animal 1 year. Then the United States Department of Agriculture Wholesome Meat Act of 1967 required federal inspection standards on any meat sold across state lines, and the states followed with rules that shuttered nearly every small local slaughterhouse in America within a decade. Home butchering for your own family stayed technically legal, but the infrastructure and the teaching evaporated. Grandsons didn't learn. I'm going to hedge here, friend. I'm not your doctor, and I'm not your county extension office. The law on this varies place to place, and there's food safety knowledge involved that's category level, not something you learn from a 10-minute video. But the fact your great-grandfather did it in his yard every November, and your grandson doesn't know it's possible, is not an accident. That's what got buried. A cold morning. A sharp knife, a whole winter of meat. Somebody made sure you'd think this was insane. Third pattern break. That was number 9. Number 6, number 3, and number 1 are still ahead. And number 1 is the one that contains all the others. Number 8, the oil lantern and the week the power went out. A kerosene lantern in 1935 cost $1.15 at the hardware store and burned for 8 hours on a nickel of oil. Your great-grandmother read her Bible by one. Your great-grandfather did the ledger by one. When storms took the wires down in the county, they lit the wick and kept living. The electric utilities of the 1950s did not ban lanterns. They just made sure the American house was wired so tight that when the grid went down, the whole family sat in the dark and waited. Last big outage week, the gas for a rental generator ran $180 in 7 days. The lantern on my shelf, the one Eli lit through the ice storm of '58, has burned on the same wick assembly for 67 years. A wick. An inch of oil, 8 hours of light, nothing to plug in. Number 7, clabbered milk and the probiotic aisle that sells it back to you. Your great-grandmother left the milk out on purpose, in a crock covered with cheesecloth, 36 hours on the counter. It clabbered, thickened into a soft curd-like yogurt, tangy, full of live cultures. She drank it, baked with it, fed it to the children. Then in 1987, the Food and Drug Administration banned interstate sale of raw milk, and clabbering, which requires unpasteurized dairy, went with it in one motion. The University of Wisconsin published in 2011 that traditionally clabbered milk carries a probiotic strain profile that comparison matches or exceeds commercial yogurt. Today, the probiotic aisle sells you the same cultures back for $6 a bottle. Your great-grandmother made a gallon overnight on the kitchen counter. Milk, thyme, cloth. A gallon of medicine for the cost of the milk. Number 6, rainwater catchment, the one they wrote a doctrine against. Your great-grandfather ran a gutter into a 50-gallon barrel at the corner of the house. Free water for the garden, the laundry, the animals. Every roof in America was a watershed. Colorado codified its water rights doctrine in the early 1970s with a key 1969 Act and 1974 clarifications, restricting private rainwater capture on the grounds it belonged to downstream users. Several other western states followed. Not outlawed everywhere. Restricted enough places that a whole generation grew up thinking rain off your own roof was somebody else's property. The rain still falls on your roof. Somebody just made sure you'd feel like a criminal for catching it. A gutter, a barrel, 50 gallons a storm, free. Number 5, the envelope system and the $300 you're bleeding right now. Cash on Friday. Wesley Cobb's wife split it into 6 paper envelopes on the kitchen table. Rent, coal, flour, meat, thread, emergency. When an envelope was empty, that category was closed for the week. There was no debate. Then Diners Club in 1950 and Bank AmeriCard in 1958 replaced the envelopes with a piece of plastic that never runs empty. Household consumer debt today runs over $17 trillion. The envelopes cost 6 cents. 6 envelopes, a Friday paycheck. Empty means empty. That's the whole system. Number 4, bone stock in a cast iron pot. Your grandmother saved every bone. Chicken carcass, ham hock, beef shin. Threw them in a cast iron pot with an onion, a carrot, a splash of vinegar, and covered them with water. Simmered 18 hours on the back of the stove. Poured off 2 quarts of amber gold worth more than any medicine in the cabinet. Cost her nothing. She'd have thrown the bones in the yard otherwise. Today, the bougie grocery pours the same broth into a fancy bottle and charges you $8 a quart for what she made from garbage. The same meat inspection framework that shuttered the small butcher shops also made bones harder to source locally. Full loop. Bones, water, vinegar, time. 2 quarts, $0. Number 3, home vinegar from a mother in a crock. The 3-state fine. Your great-grandmother kept a vinegar mother in a crock on the counter. Apple cores, sugar water, a scrap of the last mother. 6 weeks later, she poured off a quart of raw apple cider vinegar for pickling, salad, sore throats, cleaning. 3 states under Prohibition-era statutes never fully repealed for the alcohol-adjacent home fermentation category will still fine you for the sale of unlabeled home-fermented product across state lines. Making it in your kitchen is legal. Sharing it or selling it in 3 specific jurisdictions is not. That's the band your great-grandmother would laugh at. The vinegar in your fridge cost you $4. Hers cost her the peels she'd have composted. A crock. A mother. 6 weeks. A quart of medicine and pickle brine and floor cleaner. Number 2. The whetstone and the sharp edge that last a lifetime. 1 knife, 1 stone. 20 strokes each side once a month. Your great-grandfather's pocket knife was sharp enough to shave with on the day he died at 84. Same knife, same stone, 60 years. They didn't outlaw the whetstone. They just cut shop class from the American public school curriculum starting around 1971. A sharp edge lasts a lifetime and costs nothing. A pack of disposable blades cost you $4 a month, forever. Somebody did the math on that, friend, and it wasn't you. 1 stone, 20 strokes, a knife that outlives you. Number 1 isn't a trick and it isn't a hack. Number 1 is what all 19 of those were pointing at the whole time. Number 1 isn't a skill. It's the principle underneath every single one. Spend less than you earn, owe no one, own the roof over your head. That's it. That's the whole thing. Wesley Cobb didn't do 20 tricks. He did one thing 20 different ways. Every hack in this countdown was a spoke. The wheel was sovereignty. He wasn't poor, friend. He was sovereign. He answered to no landlord, no lender, no utility he couldn't shut off himself, no grocery chain, no pharmacy, no advertiser telling him what he needed. $18 a week. House free and clear by 1941. The twins he walked out of that Akron plant carrying in his wife's belly grew up eating out of a garden their father dug, wearing dresses their mother cut from flour sacks, sleeping in a house nobody could take from them. That's what the 11 cents in his coat pocket became, because he already knew 20 things his great-grandchildren don't. The record now says the government spent the next 60 years making sure his great-grandchildren would never think to learn. Not with a law, with something quieter. With advertising. With curriculum cuts. With pamphlets retired. With aisles restocked. With the whole American conversation about what a good life looks like, quietly rewritten by the people selling the replacement. The wheel is still there. Every spoke still fits. You just have to pick one up. Now hear me clean on something before we finish. I'm not selling you paranoia. This isn't a bunker channel, and I'm not your doctor, and I'm not your lawyer. Some of what I laid out, the butchering, the raw milk, the home vinegar in the wrong state, has legal edges and food safety edges you have to walk carefully. I'll tell you where the line is. I won't tell you it doesn't exist. And I'm not telling you the country's ending. I'm telling you your great-grandparents lived better on $18 a week than most people do on $1,800. And the difference wasn't luck. It was knowing. Now here's what I want you to do. Not 20 things. 1. Pick 1. Save the bacon grease this week in a mason jar on your counter. That's it. Or simmer a bone stock this Sunday from the chicken carcass you'd have thrown away. Or split next Friday's cash into 4 envelopes on the kitchen table and see what happens by Wednesday. Or plant 3 green onion bottoms on your windowsill in a jar of water and eat them for the rest of the year. I ran the envelopes myself for a month before I put this together. Found $340 I'd been bleeding without noticing. $340 a month is $4,000 a year. That's not a hack. That's a car. Tell me down below, did your grandparents do any of these? Which one? The one that gets the most comments is the one I build the deep video on next. Your granddad knew every one of these. Somebody just didn't get the chance to pass them down to you. Now they're yours again. Next time on the Ridge, the $2 pantry staple your great-grandmother kept in a tin above the stove that put a whole patent medicine industry out of business by 1938, and the year the drug companies made sure your grandchildren wouldn't know what it was for. I've got Eli's page on it open on the table already. Subscribe if you haven't, not because the algorithm wants it, because there are 18 more of these coming, and I want you here when the next old door opens. We're rebuilding a library one video at a time, friend, and the keepers keep each other. That's number 1 through 20. Keep the old ways. They kept up.